So I want to ask you, Alex, about this previously undisclosed conversation between President Trump and President Vladimir Putin at the G20 summit in Germany. A lot of questions here, but what do you think your former boss, Marco Rubio, and other lawmakers are asking about that conversation right about now?
Well, I haven't talked to Marco about it this morning, but I can tell you Republican senators, they want to know what our policy is on Russia. Trump to date has been all over the place on Russia. During the campaign saying he wanted to have a very friendly relationship with Russia. Then as soon as he gets into office doing things like the missile strike against Assad, which angered the Russians. They've been sort of sending mixed messages on the future of sanctions towards Russia. And then you have people in his administration like Nikki Haley taking a very strong line while others are taking a softer line. So I think that more than anything, Republican senators and probably the American people as a whole just want to know what is our policy towards Russia today. And presumptively, Trump was explaining to Putin what his policy was. So to the extent we want to know what that discussion was about, we want to know, Mr. President, what is your position on Russia right now? Should we have more sanctions or should we try to have a friendlier relationship with them? What is our goal here?
Mm-hmm. And Alex, if anything, I mean, I guess the big question is it problematic about the fact that a Kremlin interpreter was translating for both President Trump and President Putin with no U.S. interpreter present? Even if you buy into the notion that the President of the United States should be reaching out to the head of the president of an adversary to try to better improve relations, it does leave the opportunity for the interpreter to take advantage of the president.
Well, I mean, it's certainly not ideal. And look, I'm not going to besmirch the Russian interpreter, who's probably a rather junior person in the Russian government. But it's certainly not ideal to have two heads of state speaking without any staff listening in who can subsequently follow up on whatever those two leaders said, because things do get lost in interpretation. And everything coming out of that meeting is going to be secondhand. So what Putin told his staff could be very different than what Trump tells his staff about what the two men discussed. So that's why you always want to have at least a couple of aides in the room for those sorts of meetings. I think the larger issue here, Vlad, is that we found out about this meeting secondhand from other people at the room. It boggles my mind that the White House wouldn't say the next day, oh, by the way, Trump and Putin had a good meeting at the dinner last night. Why don't they ever get Russia news out on their own terms? This is just basic public relations in the environment that we're in, and yet they've failed it at every single opportunity. That, to me, is just mind-boggling and does raise some serious questions.
Is there a credibility issue now with the President of the United States, Alex? Because it seems, and the President loves to go onto Twitter and besmirch the press and say it's all fake news, but most of the reporting that has come out has proved to be accurate when it comes to these types of events. And it seems as if in other words, the American people are constantly learning new things about the president when it would be just really easy for them to be transparent about what the president is doing in the name of the American people, i.e. meeting with the leader of Russia.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, yes, there is a credibility problem, but the heart of the credibility problem is a lack of transparency, that we learn about things through the New York Times, the Washington Post, CBS News, rather than from the president or his spokespeople coming out and being as transparent as possible, getting all of the facts out there. And look, this is not complicated. This is public relations 101. If you have bad news, you want to put it out on your own terms. And I can't think of a single incident where the White House has done that, except for Don Jr.'s tweets, which when he tweeted out those emails, which we subsequently found out was he only did because the New York Times was about to post them anyways. So look, I think that the White House does have a credibility problem. The heart of the credibility problem is that they have not been transparent about past meetings, past actions, and they just don't do a great job explaining how they make the decisions that they do make. And there's a lot of confusion about some of the policies, including the Russia policy, like we just discussed. So all that does lead to credibility problems. His base is strong. I mean, the 25% of Americans that strongly support him, they are not going anywhere. But with the rest of the 75% of Americans, I think he has growing problems.
And you know, at the end of the day, this will all come out. I mean, the press can do what the press can do, and you can have people in the White House that are leaking information to the press. It seems as if these are people that are close to the president that are talking to members of the media. But ultimately, Robert Mueller and the special counsel will divulge what is happening there at the White House, and it's only going to get worse.
Yeah, and I think it also sort of raises the question, okay, so these are the things that we're finding out about because of some really good journalistic work, but what don't we know about? What hasn't been uncovered yet that you're not volunteering?
That's exactly right. And look, I've been in Washington for 15 years, worked in the White House, worked in the RNC, worked at a lot of presidential campaigns, and there is one constant. It always comes out, right? Like, you cannot keep a secret in Washington, D.C., and I think the Trump team is finding that out the hard way.
Alex Conant in Washington. Thank you so much, Alex.
Thank you very much.